Let me take you to a moment that changed my life. And I wasn't even the one saying the words. It was a normal Thursday. Nothing special. I was in the back of a mosque, just observing. And then a man stepped forward, shaking, crying, barely able to breathe. And in a whisper that cracked the air, he said, Ashhadu alla ilaha illallah, wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. That's it. That's the Shahada. The Islamic declaration of faith. It's 2 lines. 2 simple statements. But in that moment, that man's entire life changed. And so did mine. Because here's what no one tells you. The Shahada isn't about religion. It's about truth. It's about surrendering to something bigger than yourself. It's about coming home. Let me explain what those words mean, because most people have no idea. Ashhadu alla ilaha, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah. Not a God, not many gods. One. The one who made you, who sees you, who knows the darkest corners of your heart, and loves you anyway. Wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. And I bear witness that Muhammad is the messenger of God. It's not about worshiping a man. It's about trusting the message, the roadmap, the way out of chaos and into clarity. Now listen, I'm not Muslim, or maybe I am. Maybe I'm in the middle of 1,000 questions like you. But here's what I know: that man, the one who said those words, he had spent 27 years running from pain, from guilt, from identity, from the idea that he could ever be forgiven. He wasn't just becoming Muslim, he was becoming free. And that's what this is really about. Not religion, not rules, redemption. You don't say the Shahada because you've got your life together. You say it because you're finally brave enough to admit that you can't do this alone. Let me break something down for you, and I need you to hear this. When you witness someone say the Shahada, and they're crying, trembling, falling to the floor, you are not seeing a ritual. You are watching a soul come back to life. That's why it's emotional. That's why people cry. That's why it hits like a truck. Because in a world where everyone tells you to chase money, status, followers, this moment says, just stop. Be still. God already loves you. Just say it. Now maybe you're not ready. Maybe you'll never say it. That's okay. But ask yourself this. What truth are you avoiding right now? What's the thing you know in your gut, but you're too afraid to face? Because that's what the Shahada represents. Not answers, but the courage to begin. And if you ever witness someone say it, and I hope you do, don't just prepare to cry. Prepare to remember who you are. I want you to forget the filters for a second. Forget the videos you've seen online with dramatic music and clickbait captions. Let's talk about something real, something human. Because that's what this is. When people hear about someone taking their Shahada, especially if they're not Muslim, or don't know much about Islam, they often imagine this distant, almost foreign ritual. But when I really witnessed it, it wasn't some ritual. It wasn't a performance. It was a moment of raw human vulnerability. It was like watching someone rip their chest open, reach into their own soul and say, "Here I am, God, all of me, take it." And I'll be honest, I cried. Not because it was sad, not because it was joyful, but because it was real. In a world that's drowning in fake smiles and empty words, this was a moment so pure, so emotionally naked, that it shook me. You see, when someone takes the Shahada, when they declare their belief in one God, and the message of Muhammad, it's not just a sentence, it's not just 2 lines of Arabic, it's a soul-level surrender, and not the kind of surrender that means giving up. It's the kind of surrender that says, I've been fighting battles in my mind, in my heart, in my past, and I don't want to fight anymore. I want peace. And you can see it. You can see it in their eyes. You can feel it in the room. There's this shift, this sudden silent shift, where time kind of stops. Everyone's holding their breath, because they know this person is standing at the edge of their old life, and they're about to step into something completely unknown. And they're doing it with trust, with faith, with everything they've got. That's why people cry. That's why you might cry if you ever see it, because it reminds you of something you've forgotten. Something most of us bury under jobs and stress and expectation. It reminds you of the simple truth that you are more than your paycheck, more than your past, more than your mistakes. It reminds you that we're all searching for belonging, for forgiveness, for something that feels like home. I remember one Shahada in particular, a man in his 60s, ex-military, tough as nails, lived a rough life, tattoos up his arms, been through divorce, addiction, you name it. And when he stood up to take his Shahada, he broke, right there, sobbing, could barely get the words out, and I'll never forget what he said afterward. He said, "This is the first time in my life I feel clean, clean." Think about that. He wasn't talking about a shower, he was talking about something spiritual, emotional, something deep. That's what makes these moments unforgettable. It's not about Islam being right or wrong. It's about watching someone come face to face with their truth, watching them break the chains they've carried for decades, watching them say, enough. And we don't get many moments like that in life. So when they happen, when someone finds the courage to say those words, you feel in your gut, in your heart, and you realize this isn't just their moment, it's a wake-up call for you too. They hear it, they see someone saying it, maybe they even cry watching a video of it online, but they don't understand what those words really are. And I get it. If you didn't grow up around Islam, if you're not Muslim yourself, the Shahada might sound like some religious formula, like a membership oath, but it's not. It's a declaration, a decision, a deep, powerful, soul-anchored truth. And the craziest part, it's only 2 sentences. The first part says, Ashhadu alla ilaha illallah. That means I bear witness that there is no God but Allah. Now let's pause right there, because those words, they're not just about religion, they're about identity, they're about clarity. When someone says that sentence, they are choosing to put everything else, every distraction, every idol, every fear, every false source of comfort, behind them. They're saying no more chasing, no more pretending, no more putting my faith in people, in money, in approval, in status. That sentence says, I found what's real. And then comes the second sentence, Wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. That means I bear witness that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. And again, this isn't about worshiping a man. It's about recognizing the mission, the roadmap. Because when someone says this line, they're not just saying they believe in a prophet. They're saying, I trust this message to lead me. I trust this path to show me how to live with integrity, with purpose, with peace. And here's where it gets deep. The Shahada isn't a chant. It's not magic words. It's a pivot point, a total reset, a reorientation of someone's entire life. And once you understand the words, I mean really understand them, you begin to see why people cry when they say them, why it's so emotional. Because they're not just saying something out loud, they're saying something they've always known deep inside but were too scared to admit. God is real. I was created with purpose. I don't have to do this alone. The Shahada is one of the most powerful declarations a human being can make. Not because it makes you perfect, but because it makes you honest. And here's the thing most people miss. Even Muslims forget this. The Shahada isn't just for the day you convert. It's a daily reminder. A daily choice. Every single time you wake up, you get to choose again. Will I live like I believe this? Will I act like someone who knows I'm seen by God, forgiven by God, loved by God? And that's the beauty of it. It's not about being born into it. It's not about having all the answers. It's about bearing witness, not just with your lips, but with your life. I've met people who spent years searching. They studied Buddhism, Christianity, atheism, self-help, everything. And when they heard the Shahada, really heard it, they broke down. Because it didn't feel like something new. It felt like something they had been trying to say their whole life, but never had the words. That's what makes it so emotional. Not the words themselves, but what they unlock. And once they're spoken, something shifts. It's not just belief anymore, it's belonging. When people hear the word surrender, they think of weakness, giving up, losing. It's the last word we want to associate with strength, with success, with being in control. Because we're taught, from the moment we can stand, to fight, to hustle, to keep going no matter what. We're taught that the strong ones never quit, never break, never bow down. But here's the twist no one tells you. Real strength, the kind that changes your life from the inside out, that comes from surrender. And the Shahada, those 2 lines that mark someone's entry into Islam, is the ultimate act of surrender. But not the kind the world shames, not the kind where you roll over and take the hit. I'm talking about conscious, powerful, liberating surrender. The kind where you say, I'm done pretending. I'm done holding up walls that keep falling. I'm done carrying pain I was never meant to carry alone. You see, surrendering to God doesn't mean you lose yourself. It means you find yourself, maybe for the first time. That's why when people say the Shahada, it's emotional. Because they're not just accepting a belief system, they're laying down their weapons, the walls they've built, the false strength, the coping mechanisms, the constant performance of I've got this. In that moment they say, I don't have this, but I know who does. And that's power. Because let me ask you something, what's heavier, pretending to be fine every day, or admitting you're not and finally letting go? That's what surrender in the Shahada looks like. It's not dramatic, it's not theatrical, it's quiet, it's soft, sometimes it's just a whisper between tears, but it's real. It's the voice of someone finally letting their guard down after years, maybe decades of holding it up. I watched a woman once say the Shahada, and the moment she finished, she collapsed in tears. But they weren't tears of sadness, they were tears of relief. She said, I've never felt so light. And you could see it in her body, like she was literally standing straight, like something heavy had been lifted off her. That's the irony. The world tells you that surrender will break you. But in that moment, surrender is what builds you. And make no mistake, it's not easy. It takes guts to let go. It takes more courage to surrender to God than it does to keep pretending you've got all the answers. Because when you surrender, you're admitting I don't run the show, I don't have to be perfect, I don't have to fix everything. You're choosing to trust something bigger than yourself, bigger than your ego, bigger than your past. That's what the Shahada does. It's a release, a reset, a return to the truth that's been waiting for you underneath all the noise. And it's not a one-time act, it's a mindset. It's waking up every day and saying, I choose peace over pride, I choose guidance over guessing, I choose God over ego. If that's weakness, I don't want to be strong, because surrendering doesn't chain you. It frees you. It doesn't shrink you. It expands you. And that's why when someone takes the Shahada, they're not just entering a faith, they're finally stepping out of the fight. Here's the thing about faith, especially Islam. People make it complicated. They either preach it like a checklist, or judge it from the outside without ever trying to understand. And when it comes to the Shahada, when someone declares their belief in God and the message of Islam, most people don't know what to do with that. So what happens? They either push it too hard or back away completely. But the truth is, the Shahada doesn't need to be shouted. It needs to be understood. It's not about converting people in a moment of emotional pressure. It's about creating a space where someone can understand what they're saying, why it matters, and how it will shape their life. That's why the most powerful way to talk about the Shahada, or any aspect of faith, is to teach it, not preach it. Let me break that down. Preaching says, here's what you should believe. Teaching says, here's what this means. Take your time, think about it. Preaching often feels like control. Teaching feels like empowerment. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's that people don't respond to pressure. They respond to clarity. So many people are walking around with this distorted view of Islam, because no one ever sat them down and just explained the basics. No shouting, no guilt tripping, no fear tactics, just truth, spoken with compassion. Imagine someone hears the Shahada for the first time and they ask, why those words? What do they mean? That's not a threat, that's an opportunity. That's someone who's curious, who wants to understand. And when we answer with patience and kindness, we're not just teaching about Islam, we're modeling it. Because here's the heart of it. You don't need to argue someone into belief. You need to show them what belief looks like. Show them what peace looks like. What purpose feels like. What real freedom sounds like. That's how you educate. That's how you open a door. I remember a young man who had seen hundreds of videos of people taking the Shahada, and he said, it looks beautiful, but I don't get it. Why does it make people cry? In that moment right there, that was the invitation to teach, not to convert, not to push, just to guide him toward understanding. So I said, think about everything you've been through, every night you were lost, every time you searched for peace in all the wrong places. Now imagine finally realizing there's one God who knows you, sees you, forgives you, and wants you to start over. That's what they're crying about. He sat in silence for a long time, didn't say much, but a few months later he came back and said, I get it now. That's the power of education. You plant seeds, you trust the process, and you let people come to truth when they're ready. Because this isn't about preaching a religion, it's about revealing something that was already there inside of them. And when you teach with that kind of grace, when you explain the Shahada not as a script but as a door, people don't feel forced, they feel free. That's what makes it powerful. That's what makes it real. Not the pressure, the patience. People assume that once you say the Shahada, Once you make that declaration, your life magically changes. That suddenly everything clicks into place and you float into some kind of spiritual perfection. But that's not how it works. Real change isn't instant. It's not a spark that turns into fireworks overnight. It's a slow burn, a steady build. It's one step, then another. And sometimes you fall right back to where you started. But here's the beauty of it. The journey starts with the Shahada. It doesn't end there. And this is something we need to talk about more, especially with people new to the faith. Because too many come in thinking they have to be perfect right away. They think taking the Shahada means they have to memorize everything, wear everything, do everything. And when they can't, when they struggle, because we all struggle, they feel like they've failed. That is not the truth. That is not Islam. That's pressure. That's expectation. And that's not what God asks of you. You see, the Shahada is the starting line, not the fin. It's like waking up in a brand new world. And of course, it's going to take time to learn how to walk in it. You're going to have questions. You're going to slip. You're going to doubt yourself. And that's okay. That's normal. That's human. The difference now is you've chosen a path. You've said, I want to live with purpose. I want to walk with God. And the moment you say that, the journey begins. And guess what? It's going to be messy. It's going to be imperfect. But it will be worth it. You are not expected to transform overnight. You are expected to try. And there's so much power in trying, so much reward in effort. Because in Islam, it's not about where you start. It's not even about where you end up. It's about what you keep showing up for, day after day, moment after moment. And here's something nobody tells you. Even people born into the religion, people who've been Muslim for decades, they're still on that path, still learning, still growing, still working to align their hearts with their actions. That's what faith is. It's a lifelong climb, not a one-time leap. So if you've just taken your Shahada, or if you're thinking about it, hear this. Don't let fear of imperfection stop you. Don't let the pressure of doing it all right rob you of the joy of discovering who you're becoming. Take it one prayer at a time, one page of the Qur'an at a time, one honest conversation with God at a time, and celebrate those moments, because they're not small, they're huge. Every effort you make is seen, every struggle you push through is counted, and every step forward, no matter how shaky, is progress. You are not expected to have it all figured out. You are only expected to begin, and when you begin, when you show up with sincerity and humility, God meets you there, every single time. This isn't about perfection, it's about direction. And the fact that you said those words, that was the first and maybe the most courageous step you'll ever take. The rest of the journey, that's where your story gets written. We've walked through the moment, the raw, vulnerable, earth-shifting moment, when someone takes the Shahada. We've peeled back the layers of what those words mean, how they hit the soul and why they bring people to tears. We've talked about surrender, not the weak kind, but the kind that takes everything in you to finally let go and say, I trust something bigger than me. We've broken down the difference between preaching and teaching, and why creating space for understanding is so much more powerful than pressuring people to conform. And we've ended where all of us truly begin, with the truth that the Shahada isn't the final chapter. It's the first page of a lifelong story. This is what makes it the most emotional moment you'll ever see. Not because it's flashy, not because it's dramatic, but because it's honest. It's a person, stripped of ego, of fear, of shame, standing in front of God and the world and saying, I'm ready. And maybe in watching that, in feeling it in your chest, in wiping away tears you didn't even expect, you realize something. This isn't just their journey. It's calling something out of you, whether you're Muslim or not, whether you've said those words or are still wrestling with them, whether you're at the beginning or stuck somewhere in the messy middle. The Shahada reminds us all of one thing. It is never too late to begin again. It is never too late to return to truth. It is never too late to come home. That's what makes it beautiful. That's what makes it emotional. And that's what makes it unforgettable. Thank you.